the free man to resist tyranny at every turn. Every man will either watch his freedom stripped away or take action to protect what he loves. Introducing the A3, the newest revolutionary body armor from Armored Republic. The A3 is the new standard for lightweight multi-hit body armor. A3 plates are incredibly light at 4.6 pounds. The patented design captures fragmentation while remaining multi-hit capable. The A3 will stop up to M80 ball, yet comes in at only 0.7 inches thick. The A3 is the thinnest NIJ.06 compliant or certified composite standalone plate that includes the drop test. The A3 is the first of its kind, patent pending, that combines an alloy strike face with polyethylene backing, revolutionizing body armor technology by providing strength and durability while remaining sleek and maneuverable. The A3 is the new standard in lightweight body armor. The fight against tyranny just got stronger.
Hey y'all, welcome to CrossPolitic's on the Fight Laugh Feast Network. File this show under Conservatives Know How to Lose.
What?
Again. And again. We build big cities like Dallas, Texas, and then we hand them over to liberals. We build states like Colorado.
But enough about Ted
and
Cruz.
we hand them over to liberals.
But enough about Ted Cruz.
We build Boise,
Ted Cruz.
Idaho, and we hand them over to liberals.
Tell Ted Cruz to watch this show.
But we are on a mission to make magazines great again, and we will not hand our magazine
MAGA!
over
Zine.
to the liberals.
MAGA. It's one of those shows.
Oh, great. So subscribe to our Fight Laugh Feast magazine so Gabe will stop saying things like that. This is a quarterly mini book-like experience. If you haven't seen one of these yet, they are pretty slick. I mean,
Yeah, pretty quality.
They're like thick, they're kind of heavy, they're glossy.
Yeah.
You know.
I like them.
It's pretty sweet. Packed full of a variety of authors, including theologically driven cultural commentary, a psalm of the quarter, recipes for feasting, laughter sprinkled throughout the glossy pages. It doesn't just make you like you want to eat it.
Right.
No, maybe it's just
With your
It's food
eyes.
for the soul.
It's about,
It is.
You wanna eat it with
it's
your
about
eyes.
lunchtime. The next issue is actually called what is it called? American Marriage Sodomized.
Yep, that's correct.
Which is
And we still haven't had someone order a subscription for David French. I mean,
right.
Is Jeff Schaefer writing in that one?
I don't know.
How do you do this without Jeff?
I know.
We'll talk about that later.
You have to give him kind of a year in advance. Like got to schedule that with him,
It's
like
true.
for next decade
It's
or
true.
something like that.
Yeah.
But make sure you sign up your church, your grumpy uncle. You need to sign up Senator Ted Cruz
At this point.
Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
Sign
Donald
up
Trump.
the Pope, Donald Trump. I
Yeah.
don't know who else. I mean,
Carrie Lake.
pretty much everybody. Russell. Yeah. Anyways, the magazine will guarantee various responses, and CrossPolitic's is not held liable for any of them. Reading the whole magazine may cause theological maturation, possibly encourage your kids to take the Lord's Supper with you, and will likely cause you to randomly chuckle in joy at God's wondrous
Nah,
world.
we're responsible for
That's
that.
good.
In addition to all of the above, if you're a Platinum Club member, you get the magazine subscription for free
Yeah.
already. So if you could become a Platinum member and just get that thrown in there, and we would love you forever for your support. So sign up today. 4 issues, just $60 a year. Again, unless you're a Platinum Club member, that is it. Go to fightlaughfeast.com right now and sign up today.
Are your notifications off? Are you
I don't
dinging?
know. I don't know. Am I dinging?
You know, you do a show every day.
Apparently.
And usually you're
Apparently,
dinging.
I don't ding.
And
I don't ding.
no, you ding.
I don't hear it, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, right. You don't hear you ding.
All right.
Some of us
so
have 2 ears.
We're now entering into June Life Month.
June is
June
Life Month.
Okay.
June is Life
We've
Month.
been conditioned to know it as June Pride Month.
No, I haven't.
June Pride
No.
Month.
No.
That's
No.
that's what.
No.
That's what all
Some
the
of
parades are
y'all-
about. I'm sorry. I'm
No.
sorry.
Some
I'm
of y'all
just,
conditioned
I'm
to
just
think
reporting
of it as
facts.
Pride
No,
Month.
no,
Okay.
it's Life Month.
Okay.
June,
And-
all the months belong to God.
And June Pride Month came out of was the 1969 up in New York or up in New England Stonewall riots.
Stonewall
Gosh.
things.
Yeah,
I'm
Stonewall
glad
riots.
we forget
That's
about
where it came
those.
in.
Yeah.
And then it kind of became a thing over the years and turned into basically a celebration month for homosexual activity.
Right.
And then Bill Clinton, I think, kind of more formally recognized it in '99. And then you had Obama
Lit up the White House.
For June Pride Month. And then you had Trump, actually, his first year as a president, he didn't recognize it. 2017.
Yeah.
And then in 2019, he celebrated. He recognized it and everything. So
Then he wrapped himself in the.
he bowed the knee.
bowed the knee, very confused. But one of the things that I don't think conservatives get, this remember, file this under the category that conservatives know how to build things and lose them.
Okay.
Is that celebrations are fighting.
That's right.
When you celebrate, you're fighting. That's why David, when God prepared the table before David's enemies, David knew what was going on. God's preparing a celebration for me, preparing me a table in front of my enemies. The other thing that's going on with celebrations, and I think this is why June Pride Month is such a big month for the homosexual communities, because they know not only they're fighting, but they know they're winning. When you celebrate, you know you're winning.
Right.
The other thing that comes with celebration, well, it's a celebration of giving thanks. It's a celebration of gratitude. Those are all Christian virtues,
Right.
that have been co-opted by the Pride movement.
Right. Well, they're worshiping their gods.
Yeah, that's right.
So I mean,
They're grateful to their gods.
When we talk about glory, when we talk about joy, when we talk about celebration, which you're absolutely right. That's all. That wars are always fought with glory.
Yeah.
Glory
That's
is what
right.
collides.
That's right.
Ultimately, and literally, like even on D-Day. Like the glory
right.
of America collided, with, the glory of the Allies collided with the glory of the Axis. But when we're talking about glory, we're talking about where you get that glory. And it's either God's glory, true glory, or it's some kind of pagan idolatrous glory. But the joy of their gods is their strength.
Yeah.
And so that's why celebrating Life Month is
so important for us.
And I mean,
The overturning of 50 million babies dying.
and I want to be really clear too. I mean, this is also why celebrating the Lord's Day every
Yeah. That's
Sunday
That's right.
is so potent.
That's right.
When you go and you glory in God's name, and you glory in His Word, and you glory at His table, talk about God setting a table for you in the presence of your enemies.
That's right.
That's how you fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You fight with your glory. You come out with the blessing of God on you and on your family, and you're ready. You've got that glory.
Yeah.
And then we ought to take time to celebrate Christmas and celebrate Thanksgiving and celebrate Easter.
You're celebrating victory.
And you're celebrating victory and you're celebrating reality, God's green reality. And last year, God handed us a victory in the Dobbs decision
Yes.
that we need to just jump up and down on.
Say thank you for.
We need to praise Him. We need
That's
to worship Him. We need to thank Him that the atrocity, the abomination of Roe was thrown down. Now, we got our work cut out for us.
Sure.
We haven't fixed, we haven't solved, we haven't ended abortion in this land, which we must do.
Right.
But the path is this way.
We're going the right
The
direction.
path is celebrating us. My brother actually just posted 7 reasons June is pro-life month.
Oh,
And I just thought, just
I'm in.
as we jump in, just to give you and by the way, there's our flag that a bunch of us are going to fly.
Christian,
Right.
yep. Mine's in the mail.
what are you doing?
What's number one? What's number one?
Number one, we already said it, but number one reason June is pro-life month is Dobbs overturned Roe versus Wade.
Yep.
June 24th, 2022.
Yep.
My elders have actually asked me to give a special message that Sunday closest to that.
okay.
I think
Nice.
it's June 25th or right around there.
Okay.
I'm going to give some kind of life
Sermon,
message.
life sermon.
Yeah.
I like it.
So we're going to mark it at church that Sunday in a special message.
fantastic.
Maybe have a special feast. We had a party last year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways, that's number one. 2, June is strategic ground to claim.
Yeah.
You noted the Rainbow Mafia has been trying to claim June for a long time. They have many corporations behind them, shoving their agenda in everyone's face, but the Dobbs ruling in June gives a legitimate and prominent way to push back.
Before are you going to 3? Before you go
Almost.
to 3, I want to say something there.
Go ahead.
One of the things that is so important to think about when we're talking about festivals, as we're talking about, and why it's important to claim June, is because they've marked their territory off as the dates. And when we argue over dates, I think people need to understand we're arguing over a cosmological structure of the world.
Who owns history?
Who owns the universe? The stars in the sky are moving in a particular time, direction, mode to indicate this moment is this time to have a festival, and the whole universe says amen.
That's right.
Right? And so when pagans are marking off times and days through the calendar, it's not just 1 through 30 or 31 on a calendar, they're saying something about the way the world is actually structured and designed.
That's right.
They're making a cosmological argument
right.
about the world and about God.
That's right.
And so it's not just something light to say,
That's right.
this is a pride month. No. They're saying something about the world, and they're forcing
It's a
you
lie.
to come in and worship with them. And this is the same thing with when you hear the sound of the lyre and the harp, like Shadrach, Meshach, and the bad Negro, right? They knew not to bow down when they heard the sounds because they knew the universe wasn't built that way.
That's right.
Well, all the companies that are out here forcing us to bow down and to do, they're saying, hey, when you hear the sound of the LARP, when you hear the sound of the lyre, this is what you do, because the universe, the cosmology is structured this way. That's why it's important to take this time.
Number 3, being pro-life cuts to the heart of the godless agenda. Celebrating Pro-Life Month is a great way to cut to the center issue of our time. The godless world is trying to claim the autonomous self is God. That's what you're just getting at.
That's right.
They want their lust and desires to reign supreme.
That's right.
They are trying to reject the way God made the world, sexuality, gender, when life begins, the nature of being male and female, God's design for marriage. It's all connected. The godless hate it. And the Dobbs ruling is a reality check on their bloodlust. God is God and you are not. 4, Dobbs was a pivotal win. It was a historic and pivotal win that we should celebrate and promote. It's the first major touchdown for the pro-life side in many decades on a national level. We must recognize it's not the final victory, but a celebration is appropriate for this work because the momentum is on our side. 5, we win by what we celebrate. This is what we were just saying as well. The secularists know that we win by what we celebrate, right? They know that. If we want more victories like Dobbs, then we need to step up our celebrations. We need to tell God, we will worship you even more. We will praise you even more. And here's proof of it. You gave us this relatively little victory. And we want to show him that we're good for it. Remember in Deuteronomy that the people were judged for the lack of gratitude. I gave you all these good things and you didn't say thank you. You didn't praise me for the abundance of things that I gave you. And Christians that are being stingy about this being like, well, it didn't end abortion. That's what got us in trouble. That's not what got us in trouble. We win by what we celebrate. 6, pursuit. Pursue the enemy. In a battle, the concept of pursuit is just as important as the initial win. After David killed Goliath, Israel still had to pursue the Philistines. We haven't even cut off the head of the giant yet, but I think maybe we hit him with the stone. I don't know.
And rejoicing is pursuing.
That's right. And 7, June has a history. I like actually this one. He says, my brother says, June has been the month that frequently is used. God has designed marriage. Sorry, can't read a sentence. June has been the month to celebrate what God designed marriage to be, one man and one woman. June is often when marriages occur. It's not the only month, of course, but something, if you marry in June,
you get through spring and then you have your wedding in June.
I don't know. It's like you're a bride all your life or something like that.
Is it just 7? Can I add an 8th one?
Yeah.
It's also when Uganda signed the anti-homosexuality bill.
Oh.
How about that? How about we can celebrate that?
Add that to your list.
Add that to the list.
What are we celebrating, Mom and Dad? Uganda.
Yes.
And so
Uganda.
With this contrast that we have before us, Pride Month, Pride Life Month, that we're arguing for, it strikes me that conservatives, especially the new conservative movement, is
like Ted Cruz.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can throw Ted Cruz in that. I think Charlie Kirk.
He's like, here, let me face plant right in front of
as
Jim.
A pastor's son too. It's a PK.
Well, let me just face plant.
And let me just say this. So the new conservative movement is starting to get friendly with the homosexuality.
Not starting.
And that's but in a more public way.
So
the log cabin Republicans have been around for a long time. Donald Trump has been
doing this a long time.
But there's been a lot of behind the scenes things that have been friendly with the conservative, the LGBT movement. Until now, but now it's starting to become more public, and part of what's going on here is I think conservatives have been losing this last 4 years pretty bad to Biden and all that stuff, and so what happens is you want to make your tent bigger, and you want to figure out how to make your tent bigger.
Because you need numbers in order to be able to have.
You got to win.
You got to get
numbers win.
You got to get the gods of the Philistines to join you.
Yep, and they think this is how we do it. But the problem is we can't fight Pride Month. We can't fight Pride in this June month if we accept that same immorality within our camp,
because that's pride.
You're
just joining them.
Yeah, you're just joining them. And so Ted Cruz actually this last week, the Uganda
So yeah, anti-homosexuality act was finally signed this past week
in Uganda.
Yeah, in Uganda.
And Ted Cruz retweeted the New York Times. Go ahead and bring up that tweet. Retweeted the New York Times article talking about this Uganda law. And this Uganda law, you actually read through it, and it has the death penalty for rape and stuff like that, and it has other.
No. I want to pause there. Yes, it has a death penalty for homosexual rape.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like raping kids.
Yep.
Raping disabled people.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Ted Cruz has the audacity to say this Uganda law is horrific and wrong. Any law criminalizing homosexuality or imposing the death penalty for aggravated homosexuality, which is what aggravated homosexuality is defined as, rape of a disabled, unconscious, or child or someone with a power, authority over someone.
Yep.
He calls that grotesque and abomination.
Yep.
All civilized nations should join together in condemning this human rights abuse. Hashtag LGBTQ. Ted Cruz.
Shame on you.
Shame on you.
Yep, you need to repent, sir.
Absolutely embarrassing.
And then Jenna Ellis actually responds to him, kind of calling him out a little bit.
Kudos to Jenna. Kudos to Jenna.
Talking about the law. The death penalty is for child rape, but she points that out specifically. Now, the law has a variation of penalties on other situations.
As it should.
As it should.
Yeah.
But she specifically points out the penalty for child rape.
She says, so she's quote tweeting someone else who was smearing her, and she says, independent media personality Jenna Ellis openly disagreed with pro-LGBTQ tweet from Ted Cruz that said the Ugandan penalty for child rape is too harsh. Fixed it for you.
Yeah.
Ted Cruz quote tweets Jenna, says, Jenna, not sure why you're defending this barbaric Ugandan law. It imposes life imprisonment for consenting adults who engage in gay sex. That's ridiculous. You or I may or may not agree with their choices, but consenting adults should not go to jail for what they do in their, we didn't get the rest of the tweet, but I think it said in the privacy of their own homes.
But were you going to say something else before you?
I'm trying to hold back.
No, don't hold back, because this is ridiculous. It's not just Ted Cruz, though. I think lots of Christians, we don't have a Christian biblical ethic about sexuality, period. We don't understand the potency of it and what it is and what it does and why it's important. It is a founding part of humanity. And it's not, people are thinking about this. It's a lot of Christians, because I posted this, I said on Twitter, I said, is this biblical or unbiblical? Because I know I'm a theonomist. You know where I stand on this, right? Yeah. This is something that's worthy of the death penalty, right? Yeah. All the way up to. So, but most people said, well, this is Old Testament law. Well, this is a sexual thing. This is a sin. This isn't necessarily crime. No. Adultery, homosexual sex, Leviticus 18, these are crimes as well as sins. They're not just sins. Yeah. These are things, when you are swearing an oath to be faithful to someone else, you're making a covenant, the type of covenant that if you break it, you could be put to death. Right.
Yep.
Right?
You're bringing curses
down
on you and on your land.
So when you talk about well, should somebody who fornicates or commits adultery on their wife, should they be put to yes. Yeah. Yes. They could be saved by their wife. If their wife doesn't want that, or her husband doesn't want that, sure, this is why you see in the New Testament where Joseph wanted to put her away quietly. Why? Because he didn't want the effects of the law to be put on Mary, right? This is what the Bible teaches. This is not what secularism.
I'm sorry.
I just want to make the point that Christians, we are thinking, oh, this is a sin, but this needs to be dealt with by the church. No. The government has a responsibility as well to deal with sexual immorality when it comes out. That's why you look at Leviticus 18. What should happen to someone who has sex with the animal? Death penalty. Because it's not about the animal. What it's telling you is that this is a type of person that is going to damage and destroy the
blessing of God.
Well, the blessing of God, but society in itself. It's not just. It actually has an effect on you. Their sin is going to come down and have an effect all the way to your insides of your own home. And this is why it's important what we do with our members sexually.
Right. Yeah. Tom Askell, our friend,
I was going to bring that up.
He says, "Tell it to God, Ted." And then he quotes Leviticus 20. If a man lies with a male as with a woman, both of them have committed an abomination. They shall surely be put to death. Their blood is upon them. And he asks, was this law God gave to his old covenant people, quote, horrific and wrong?
I love that theonomic argument from Tom.
I quote tweeted him, said, Ted, was God's law in the Old Testament ridiculous? Because he calls it ridiculous. I said, why were there sodomy laws on American law codes for hundreds of years?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, sodomy laws have only been repealed in the last like few decades.
Right.
I mean, for hundreds of years in America, there were sodomy laws on the books. Were those ridiculous?
Yeah.
And again, just note here, the death penalty that's specifically listed in the Uganda law is for rape.
That's right.
I mean,
But we can't even get people to want the death penalty for rape in America.
I know.
Right? Like we can't even say like, well, you deserve to die.
But the other thing I want to point out is, I just underline what your point is that we believe, so we live in a land where like, we believe there are things that it contrasts who our high priests are.
Right.
So there's high priests in our land who say that if you don't get this chemical injected into your body, if you don't put this thing over your face, you're practically a murderer.
Right.
You're killing your neighbors.
Right.
We say, if you puff on something with tobacco in it,
Right.
You hate life.
Yeah.
Basically, and there's fines and penalties for doing, and if you tamper with the smoke detector and
Right.
God forbid you tear your mattress label off.
Who's tampering with the smoke detectors in the airplane lavatories? but like we have these laws about, and why? We're told that what you're doing is infecting everyone else.
Yeah. Right.
There's this thing called secondhand smoke. There's this thing called, and we pollution.
Yeah.
Right.
Pollution. You're running your car, Gabe?
Yeah. I warm it up in the morning.
You hateful person, right? And we make laws, we penalize, and we threaten people and their lives, their livelihood, their property for these things because these high priests, these humanistic high priests told us that what you're doing in the privacy of your own property and home is infecting everyone else. Well, we understand the notion of abominations.
Yeah, we do.
An abomination,
they're inescapable.
Biblically speaking, are acts that contaminate a land. They defile a land.
That's right.
And we call it pollution.
Yeah.
We do this with health all the time.
Global warming.
But when God says, look, what you're doing in the privacy of your home
is polluting the land.
Yeah. Ted Cruz calls that ridiculous and barbaric. But that's because he has substituted alien priests.
Yeah.
Alien priests. We call the family nuclear.
Right. I was thinking about that.
The nuclear family, because originally there was a Polish sociologist who coined the term apparently, but because of the idea of a nucleus. Nucleus is the smallest component in an atom.
Right.
And that's where it came from. But I think it also applies to the sense in which it's come to be known in modern science, as in it's nuclear. Mm-hmm. It has nuclear power. It has nuclear potential. And if you're, I like to ask people, you, especially in Idaho and Montana and places like this, you believe in the Second Amendment, you think people should have the ability to defend themselves against the government, You think people should have nukes? And there's usually one guy in the back says, yeah,
I'm that guy. I'm always that guy.
He's deep in the woods in northern Idaho.
But most of the time, everybody sort of is like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And the thing, but I want to say, like, so if your neighbor says, look, I'm just going to be tinkering in my basement with some uranium.
Right.
Don't bother me. I'm in the privacy of my own home doing uranium.
Yeah.
Right.
Experiments.
Right.
And he's got the hair and, the goggles on and you're like.
Some burnt marks.
And like, why do you care what a consenting adult is doing in the privacy of his own home?
Yeah.
Because it's not going to stay there.
That's
right.
Because what you are doing there is radioactive.
That's right.
You're breaking apart. Back to the cosmology.
Yes.
One of the central nucleuses of creation.
That's good.
Where God pictures his own love for his people in marriage. And then you break that apart with adultery. You break that apart with sodomy. You break that apart with those things. And what you're doing is you are unleashing a nuclear meltdown.
That's right.
And we are living in the Chernobyl of American marriage.
That's so good, Toby.
People look at the Bible and the Old Testament law, especially when it talks about the death penalty for disobedient children, and they're like, what is that law there? That's an old law.
So
and
harsh.
Then you get to the New Testament, and Jesus enforces that law and salutes it, and he says, people who don't obey their parents should have the death penalty, and yet this is the same thing. The reason that we have that there because it doesn't stay there,
right?
And so you have the way that we look
it's toxic.
It's toxic, right?
It's radioactive.
The way that you take care of your parents actually has penalty laws connected to it. It should.
right.
That's biblical thinking, right? And also your children, if they're the ones that are taking the cars out and they're hitting old people and they're damaging, like what was a teen run on Chicago that weekend,
that kind of stuff.
What do you think should happen to kids that have forsaken the obedience of their parents and destroying? It doesn't stay there in the house. No. It's all over the streets.
Yeah, I mean, what do we mean by meltdown? What do we mean by radioactive?
We're looking at it.
We're looking at it. We're looking at the epidemic of fatherlessness, of addictions, of suicide, of gang violence, of mass incarceration, 65 million babies dead.
That's right.
I mean, that's the meltdown. That's the.
So I think conservatives are getting played here, because kind of what we said earlier, they want the vote, they don't want to malign the base. Yeah. They also, I think, don't really want to put up the fight where the fight needs to be needs to be at.
Yep.
Because the LGBT community, when they come after you, they're going to take down your walls, they're going to take down your family, they're going to take down your businesses, everything. And so I think Ted Cruz is being played by this. We had a video we aren't going to play right now, but Charlie Kirk, who's wavered on this issue over the last number of years. But
he didn't waver.
Yeah. Well,
the dude face planted.
That video was done a couple years ago that we talked about. So I'm not. I'm trying to be generous.
You think he's adjusted
his
position since
I don't
then?
know. I was trying to do a little research on that. I don't know. I'm just trying to be a little generous with Kirk on this one. And so you
Charlie,
have this,
come back on the show. Talk to us about it.
Yeah, exactly. But the problem is what conservatives are doing, what they're actually doing is they're diluting their principles. They're diluting their biblical stance in the name of trying to get more voters.
Yep.
And I think this...
And you know where they learned that?
In this political world,
Seeker sensitive.
The church.
Yeah.
In this political world, people think in terms of votes. They think in terms of, hey, we need to cast a big tent. And I think they're being suckered by the wrong things. I think you can still cast a big tent, but what that means is you're actually... You don't compromise your ethics. You don't compromise your principles. Actually, strong, courageous leaders in the movement, speaking specifically in the political conservative Christian movement, strong political leaders actually create that big tent. Strong leadership, strong convictions.
Yeah.
That's what creates that big tent.
Yeah.
What we want is a lot of these people are like, well, you don't want homosexuals in your party. And I'm like, I don't mind them voting for me, right? I don't think they should be leaders in our party.
Want them to lead.
They should not be leaders in the party.
Yeah,
right?
And I think part of what this is not a new thing, but part of what this is that we're afraid of losing again, right? I think when you brought this up in the beginning, when conservatives had some big losses, and I remember when they lost, they didn't do as well. The big red
wave turned into a trickle.
It was a very small trickle, and I think that they realized. I saw them adjust. They said, you know what? We better find where that gooey middle is, and how do we scrape them?
Remember what they all talked about? They said we need to stop talking about abortion.
They stopped talking about abortion.
There was initially this yay, duh.
Whoa, nobody has our back.
No,
that's right.
But you know who those people are, though? Those are the 10 spies. Those are the 10 spies that saw the giants and said, we can't win.
Right. Yeah, that's
and
right,
they came back with a bad report.
We need Joshua and Caleb.
And you know what they did? They infected the rest of
Israel.
Nation. All of Israel cried out and said, God, have you brought us here that we might die? It'd be better in Egypt. It'd be better to die in the wilderness. Right? And
that's good, Knox.
And Joshua and Caleb stood up and said, what is wrong with you people? God it's for us.
He brought us here.
Their protection.
We have June Life Month.
The protection of Canaan, it's gone because Egypt was crushed. And then and he said, God has given them to us as bread.
Yes.
That's right.
Now, what does that remind you of? They have been fed all throughout the wilderness with bread and manna.
Magic bread.
God has given them
heavenly
to
bread.
us to eat. It's ours.
Yeah.
Their protections are gone, but because they were afraid and fearful, they were not able to enter into the promised land.
And the big in the so-called big tent that you get is weak and impotent. Diluted. And the thing is why do so many conservatives not care to even go out and vote? Because you've told us that all you're going to offer us is lame.
Yeah, that's right.
You're going to give us lukewarm, middle of the road, warmed over conservatism that we don't want.
Yeah.
But if men would stand up and say, we're not going to murder babies, we're going to end the bloodshed, if they would stand up and say, marriage is one man and one woman, if they would stand up and say that marriage is meant to be a fruitful institution where children are welcomed, where parents are honored, if they would stand up and say, no, this is our platform.
Yeah.
Basically the 10 Commandments. This is our platform.
That's it.
Traditional, like the kind of Christianity that George Washington would recognize. Like that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. there would be, I don't think the Charlie Kirks and Ted Cruzes don't understand.
No, they don't.
That would be the rallying point.
Because a strong, courageous leader that's doing that, all of a sudden you create a draft of all these people that want to follow that.
People are excited.
Even though they
about
might not agree with everything, they're going to draft off it.
Yeah. Should I read this ad or no? Classical Conversation supports homeschooling parents by cultivating the love of learning through a Christian worldview in fellowship with other families. They provide a classical, Christ-centered curriculum, local, like-minded communities across the United States and in several countries, maybe even Uganda. And they train parents who are striving to be great classical educators in the home. For more information and to get connected, please visit their website at classicalconversations.com. Again, that's classicalconversations.com.
So if you're single, get married. If you're married, have you some kids. And if you have kids, go baptize them. Until next time, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. This is CrossPolitic.
I hope my son is gay.
And I hope that Jesus forgives him just like he does the rest of us.
Doug Wilson, Wasco minister and columnist with the Idahonian Daily News.
The question that confronts us is, what does it mean in a disobedient culture to be prophetic?
There be a place for same-sex couples?
No marriage.
Even though it's the law of the land in the United States?
Just like Roe used to be. We want to turn the world upside down, and you don't turn the world upside down by being nice. I believe that we are in this polytheistic, pluralistic moment, and the desperate need of the hour is for our Christian leadership to say, Jesus is Lord and there is no other.
Fear no man.